Hello and welcome back. I want to take a real quick second and apologize for my last video. I know I can be a little long-winded, but I had no idea that video ended up being 22 minutes until I went to render it. And at that point, I wasn't going to edit it down, so I will do my best in the future to make my videos considerably more concise. With that being said, let's talk about today's topic, author's intent, which is the whole reason I started the noted commentary section of the one-way discussion. I want to go over a little bit about what author's intent is, why it's important, really what we have done culturally with author's intent, and what I believe we should do with author's intent. First and foremost, what is author's intent? It's a concept. As a competitor in speech, you're taking someone else's work, someone else's book, poetry, prose, plays, whatever it might be, and you're condensing it down into a 10-minute presentation where you try, as best you can, to convey the mood and the theme and the story of another author. And author's intent is a decent chunk of the grading rubric. So they're looking for you to stay true, if you will, to what the author had intended. Secondly, let's talk about, at least to me, why author's intent is important. For me, it's important because music specifically, and all forms of art, they're so subjective. What one person gets out of a piece of artwork, whether it's a painting or a song, can be drastically different than what someone else gets out of it. You get 10 people to listen to the song, well, very specifically the lyrics to Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden, and you're going to get 10 people with a completely different interpretation of that song. And this is the best part about it, and this is why music is so great. Every one of those interpretations is valid. Now, it might not be the correct interpretation, but they're all perfectly valid. I bring this up because I have been told time and time again by my musical friends that music is the universal language. And it couldn't be further from that. Because language is very specific, and your goal is to convey a message, to convey something to somebody so they understand it. Music doesn't really do that. At best, you might get a really broad paintbrush and be able to convey an emotion at its best, like sadness or happiness. But you're really not going to be able to convey the nuances through music. I remember back in the day, when you had to do book reports and analyze a story. And I don't know about you, but I was constantly prompted to change the wording I had and say things like, I believe the author was saying this. So, what have we been doing culturally with author's intent? Bend, fold, mutilate, distort, and hell, for the most part, we really just ignore it. We don't think it matters anymore what the author was trying to say, whether it's in literature or whether it's in art or music. It's as if it's an inarguable fact. Well, that song is clearly about blank. Our opinions are black and white. The author said this. The author meant this. The person who created this painting clearly was trying to say this and that. There's no gray area. Well, as a creative person, this is bothersome. Because it is not black and white. Very rarely is it black and white. And that's what makes music so great, because anybody can relate to it. Because our living, breathing experiences are all different. And here comes the heartfelt moment of this video. The reason author's intent is so important to me is because I have had my lyrics come into question. I'll go more into the details on the song itself later in another video, but I will never forget, after a show, this woman came up to me and she said, wow, I really like your guys' band, but I can't get behind bar song. And I thought, all right, well, maybe she just doesn't like it. Maybe she just thinks it's a bad song, which she's entitled to think. But then what she said next devastated me. She said, "It's because it condones date rape." Yeah, this video just got serious. And I was taken aback, I was beside myself, and I couldn't fathom that. I was thinking, it does? Oh my gosh. Does it? The answer is no. I had to rewind, get back in my own skin, and think for a second. That's not what that song's about. It wasn't about that. I didn't write that song with any of those connotations in mind. But it didn't matter. It wasn't, hey, I really like you guys as a band, but that one song of yours makes me feel uncomfortable because, to me, it's about this really horrible thing. Or, I really don't like that song of yours because it sounds like you're condoning this really horrible behavior. That's not what it was. She came up as if God himself had told her as much, that my song was about an atrocity. Which, again, I will state unequivocally that it is not about that. But this is not the only time it's happened. I've had other songs of mine come into question. Now granted, I've also had other people come up to me and say, hey, this song was great. It spoke volumes to me because I've been in a similar situation and I really appreciate it. And that's great. When it's a positive experience, I'm always pleased to be on this end of things. Even if it's not what I had intended it to be, because at least it's uplifting. The inverse of that is a whole nother animal. And I guess if you look at media as a whole, I've got some serious issues with the way that we chastise, very specifically musicians, about what we believe, what we think, and at best what we postulate their songs are about. And with all that, I would like to encourage you to pay attention to your wording. Give that impression of personal assessment as opposed to some sort of arbitrarily assigned factual assessment. It's interpretation and it's subjective, and that is all I'm going to try to encourage you to do and just be aware of from here on out. When you listen to a song or you hear someone say, well, that's what this is about, be like, is it? It might not be. Encourage people to recognize that that is their interpretation of it. That is, for one reason or another, how their life experiences have allowed them to interpret a media. Or a medium. Whatever. Alright. Done my best to keep it short and sweet. For now, I'll cut you loose and catch you later. Oh, almost forgot. Proper YouTube etiquette. As always, like, comment, subscribe, but more importantly, share.